Welcome back, everyone, to Merge Conflict, your weekly developer podcast about all things on the wide, wide world of software engineering. I am one of your hosts, James Montemagno, and with me always and forever in my heart, the one, the only, the ultimate tour guide of Seattle, Washington, Mr. Frank Kruger. How's it going, buddy?
Very good, but I think I'm more of a 2 9s kind of. I'm with you. I think sometimes you've gone off on your own, so I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I only do 2 or 3 9s of uptime on this podcast.
Trying to get it back to 5. Trying to get it back to 5 9s.
Someday we'll be 5 9s.
I do think I did one podcast with Maddie once, and
maybe 3.
Maybe one with John, and maybe one with Heather. I think one time too.
3 out of 500, not too bad. Well, yeah. So, do you count the first 2 9s? Like, if you're 99.9, is that 3 9s or 1 9?
I believe that it is the dot after the dot is how many nines. It'd be 2 9s.
Yeah, buddy. I'm a 1 9er. Well, it's wonderful to be here on my 1 9.
Well, it's good to have you. And we are recording on a beautiful Saturday night, which is kind of good because there's some news this week. You have some family in town, so you get to show them all around. I was actually in Redmond for VS Live, which is pretty good. I did a few sessions. And yeah, there was some pretty big announcements on the internet around GitHub, our favorite platform for doing Git things and storing our source code. Got to put it somewhere. Put it up there.
Just assuming that my hard drive's going to fail. It's my number one place of paranoia that if my hard drive fails, I'm not out of business.
Exactly. So you got to put my code somewhere. Yeah. So I don't know if you woke up on Thursday and you went to github.com and the hamburger button was replaced by a pancake. I don't know if you noticed this or saw anything on social media about it.
James, can I be thoroughly honest with you? As the premier tour guide of Seattle, I have done 0 software development in the last week. So I am so behind. Do you know how many AI years I've missed in the last 1 week of not doing development? Let alone GitHub. I don't know. I'm maybe just a few months behind on GitHub, missing 1 week. But no, I missed it. Tell me the joys of pancakes, please.
Well, let's just say for the last week or more, let's just say the marketing team and the developer relations team, including the one that I am on, have been dreaming up a few ideas around one of the biggest releases that GitHub has had for the core product in a long time, is stacked PRs, now which we're going to talk about today. And because they're stacked PRs, what else do you stack? You stack pancakes and or waffles. And or
waffles. Your waffles? You.
Wow. I like a lot of waffles. If I'm gonna be eating waffles, I might as well stack them high. Well, normally, okay, so if I'm making waffles, okay, let's roll this back. Like pancakes
this is important talk here. Yeah.
Inherently, you are stacked. If you go to my Twitter account right now, it's me surrounded by pancakes. Inherently, you stack pancakes and they're served to you on a plate unless you're just getting a solo pancake, which sometimes I do. And then it's just like a solo one. It's like a side of pancake. Because I'm at a breakfast place, like Elmer's or something. I'm like, let me get a side of pancake. Normally, when people do get waffles, like I would say pancakes are normally stacked, waffles are normally solo. However, when we make waffles at home, how I like to make waffles is I put them, we have like a double waffle maker so you can flip them. So I usually I'm usually going and making a bunch of them and then I stack them up. It's like I stack them. So I make them all ahead of time, like before we eat. And then when Heather and I sit down or if we have friends over, I then put those waffles back in the waffle machine, reheat them up, and then serve them hot and fresh, right? Because if you're making a bunch of waffles, I only got like one waffle machine. I want to eat many waffles. So you got to reheat them up. So, yeah.
So you're saying you have a stack of waffles and a queue, some kind of like eating queue for these kinds of waffles? That seems like a critical part of stacks and queues merging together here. Anecdotally, I got to tell you, in Stanwood, Washington, as the premier tour guide of Washington State, I have to tell you, their pancakes are plate-sized. And you might think with a plate-sized pancake, you don't need a stack. But guess what? They're still stacked. You are getting so much pancake. So I'm excited to learn what you would do with your stacks of pancakes. Is this even software? Are we even software engineers anymore? I am so lost in our metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We absolutely.
totally.
Yeah, totally.
Making software here. And delicious
making software.
Breakfast, if you're not hungry yet.
Yeah. Well, the stacked PRs came out. So a few things happened on that day. There was tons of pancake memes because we stacked the pancakes, and the hamburger button turned into a pancake. Additionally, I did have the ability, I'm pretty sure it's in the product, at least for the next week it will be. In the GitHub Copilot app, there is a little Mona mini game where you collect commits, but I changed it to collect PRs. And then once you get so many PRs, they turn into pancakes, and then they go from there.
My God.
I did. Yeah, they let me merge that in, which was hilarious.
That went into the merge queue. Never should have given you commit privileges. I knew this was going to end poorly.
I mean, anyone can commit. However, it doesn't mean your PR is going to get accepted. So, because it's going to go into some review queue, and then if it does get accepted, it's going to go into a merge queue, which we're going to talk about. Okay.
What? Never heard of that.
Okay, so this is interesting. So let's first break down stack PRs. Let's talk about a pull request. What's a pull request, Frank?
Pull request is a bunch of commits that I group together. Let's not call it a stack of commits because that would be confusing to our thing. But I've got a bunch of changes I want to make, or it could just be one. One is a special case of many. And a pull request is I want someone to check out my code. I want someone to review it and take a look-see at it. Oftentimes it's myself, mostly because I'm in like a fugue state when I'm programming or vibing. And I need a later Frank, a more responsible Frank later to go review that code and make sure it's actually worthy of being merged into the master branch. It's also a good time to run some scripts, run your CI, see if everything's building. Did you break the test? Should you add some tests? It's just your kind of, it's your moment to relax and reflect upon all the code that you maybe hastily wrote and should check out before actually merging into the product. That's what a PR is. How close am I?
No, that's perfect. And normally if you're living on main, you'll create a branch off of main, and then you'll make those changes, those commits. You'll collect those commits, and then you will put them in, often squash them down, flatten it down, and then boom, one thing in. Very, very nice. That's why I do almost 100% of my work is in branches, because I try not to ever really commit directly to main, because normally we have some gates, like you said, CI, CD, just making sure like I didn't break the build. I want main to always be shipping. So we have these little branches, and those are nice too, because then multiple people can be doing pull requests into an area, and then you can review them, and then you can like kind of pull things back. You don't have to worry about merge conflicts as much. And if there are, then you can resolve them, XYZ into them. So let me ask you a question then, Frank. Let's say you have a pull request or a feature that you're working on, and it gets like unruly large.
Ooh,
what happens when that PR becomes tens of thousands of code change? And what if, for example, you have not only started to make changes to like the front end, but you change the back end and then the database, but because you're like, well, I got to finish all of it. I got to finish all of it in this one PR. Do you go down that route, or do you do the thing where you are like, okay, what I'll do is I will like make multiple PRs against main? Or do you do the thing where you're like, okay, I'm going to make a branch off of a branch, and then I'll have 3 or 4 PRs, and then I'll figure out the order, although I forgot. So I hope I don't merge things in the wrong order. Like what's the process? Or do you just like YOLO it into one ginormous merge PR because you don't care?
I just realized I do all of the above, to be thoroughly honest.
Yeah, me too.
As a Git anarchist, I do love my branch of a commit to a branch of a branch of a branch. I do enjoy that. Because when you finally do get it up to main, it's kind of very satisfying when you're like merging along the way without merge conflicts, obviously. But I have to admit, the best way to squash something is to have a lot of somethings to squash. So when I see like 50 commits on a PR, I am just itching to hit that merge squash button, because it's going to feel so good when you see 10,000 files changed, 100,000 lines of code added, 200,000 deleted. But it's also incredibly scary, because I know where you're getting at here. Those big commits are scary. And I've certainly had projects that are long running, kind of living in their own branch, and we're committing against that branch, but you're like, we really got to get this puppy in Maine, but everyone on the team's a little bit afraid of it. And by team, I mean like 2-3 people. But you know, that's the world I live in. But even with 2-3 people, it's amazing how like you can create that branch that is, give it time. It's diverging from Maine more and more, and you're getting more and more nervous about bringing it into Maine. And then you're like, we just got to merge to Maine. Like, I don't care the state of this anymore. I applaud your Maine should always be shipping. I'm not there. Sadly, I tend to abuse Maine as a dev branch, and I use branches and tags as my shipping things. So if I create a, let's say, a 1.16 release, I'd have a 1.16 branch or tag that most likely a branch that I can do small changes to if I'm like trying to do bug fixes and such. Sadly, and this is, everyone's probably rolling their eyes and yelling at me, please write to James. I tend to use main as the dev branch. But yeah, I big commits, big PRs, tricky, but it's so satisfying to squash them.
It totally is. Yeah, I agree. I'll say I also do all the above. I have recently got into your workflow on some of my apps, which is the tags as release versions. In fact, I've made entire GitHub Copilot app like canvases for release management tools that help me like make the change log, tag the releases, and then go into different flows, kick off different actions to actually make these things happen. So normally what I do is I have main, and it's always just like, is it clean? Can I at any time peel off a release if I wanted to from it?
Right. Yeah.
And then what I do is I will tag a release, and then when I tag it, that will kick off an automation that then like ships a build, basically. Because some people are like, hey, whenever I commit to main, then do a release. And I was like, well, that seems like too many builds. Like, you're wasting too many actions. So I like to be intentional, which is like, okay, when I do a PR or I commit to main, even if I do commit mainly, like do the CI stuff, but do a sweep, right? That's doing gates. And then when I tag it, do the full release build, which goes through the entire shenanigans. And that's what I've been using, because those builds usually take longer, and you're shipping and you're signing. You know, if you need to sign a build with Apple, why do you do it on every commit to main, for example?
If you're like me, because you're a sadist, you just like to have all your builds fail January 15th or whatever.
Be sure, like, oh, it's that time of the year.
Everything goes down. You're like, oh, my apps are all garbage now.
Oh, no. I'm not looking forward to that, because it's definitely going to happen to me at some point here in the future. And I'm like, oh, no. Well, I think the other thing I do, Frank, is like I'll start working on a branch, and then I'll start working on a feature, and I was like, well, what if this feature like also did this and then also did this? And like sometimes they're related, and then sometimes they're not. Yeah. So like either if they're not related, then they would need to be like maybe broken up. But sometimes they are like, okay, well, like I did this, but like now I can do this other thing. But like inherently, it's like, well, I'm doing a bunch of things on top of each other.
Yeah, there's tricky parts to branches, especially if you're just adding in a branch. Life is good. Everything's easy. You can have multiple parallel branches. No one's interfering with each other. But the moment you do a refactoring or change like a data path or a control path in your app, well, now you have a proper breaking change that's may not be user-facing breaking, but it's going to break every other branch that's based off of the same branch point. And those are always the trickiest ones to deal with. And sometimes the trickiness is like, hey, I'm coding this new feature. I don't want to code against the old architecture. I want to code against the new architecture, which I know is sitting in a branch, but that branch will get committed in the future. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to commit it to that branch. Or at least what normally I do is I would branch from that branch. And that's when we're getting into your anarchist Git usage, chaotic Git usage, whatever you call it.
Well, I think up until this point, like there's, this concept of that we're going to get to a stack PRs is not new, by the way, because other companies like Meta had like Sapling, and like there's like Graphite had stack PR and there's other things, but it was obviously very, very, very hotly requested feature. In fact, when Jared came in a ways back, he was like, yeah, we're going to do stack PRs. Like what was the number one thing that people want? It was like stack PRs. Because like a lot of times for large, companies or even small companies or different size companies, when you're working on features and you're doing reviews, even if you're working with AI now, by the way, and I'm doing code reviews, if I all of a sudden put in a 20,000 line review because I decided to implement the front end, the back end, the auth layer, the database layer in one huge PR, it's got to figure out all of those And maybe you do want it to review all of them together, but inherently I should be able to say, okay, like here's, a review of just the database changes or just the API level or just the front end layer or something else, and then go for it. And inherently, when you're working in this mechanism, it's very, very complicated unless you've pre-planned that to start figuring out how to split these into multiple PRs. Because what you end up having to do is say, okay, I have main, and then I have my main task, and then I'm going to like make another branch on top of that branch, and then another branch on top of that branch, or maybe there is another branch on top of main, and they're all related. But how do I configure them? Because what you want is a single PR, like a single PR view that says, hey, inside this PR is a bunch of sub PRs, and then you should merge them basically in this, this order or maybe any order, up to you. And you should be able to stack those PRs on top of a full PR, right? So if you're like, hey, I'm going to implement feature, store. Okay, I'm going to have a front end PR and then a back end PR and then a database PR, like I'm saying, and then those all stack, and you might want to merge them into each other or into main directly, but review them separately. And you want a view, and that's kind of like the high level what stacked PRs are.
It's actually making a lot of sense to me. So I have a bunch of questions for you, but first I want to give you how I've been handling. I have a similar problem in that I've been doing a lot of issues with sub issues, especially in this age of AI, where I don't trust it to actually do a giant feature all at once. Usually I'm in some kind of plan mode and I'm like, hey, let's talk about this feature. What parts are going to need to be implemented? Let's break it down into multiple segments. And this is where I think people use multiple sessions or just have like a Ralph loop running or something. But I prefer to do, let's file 10 issues and we will go through those issues one at a time. And each one is a PR and I'll review them and break it down that way. But there's no I'm sorry. Well, GitHub has added sub issues. So that would be like my meta handler for I can kind of group all these issues together by having a tracking issue and then make all these sub issues of that tracking issue. So it's sounding like these stacked PRs are kind of similar to that. Yeah. I'm curious, is a stacked PR an all or nothing game, or can you progressively work through it, or do these companies basically want we just want a place to group all these things together and they will all go into main all at the same time, or whatever their branch pointed off of?
Yeah, I think that you have the option to merge like one at a time when it's ready, or merge all of the stack from like the bottom up. I believe it's like
I might actually use this feature then.
Yeah. From my understanding, and then there are other companies that are like building like their integrations with stacked PRs on top of it. So they might have different flavors of how it looks. Like there is a CLI integration and app integration, and I'm sure it'll show up in VS Code and Visual Studio and all in CLI already and things like that. But yeah, inherently you can say, oh, I have this pull request, and then I see all these stacked items inside of it that I need to merge before I merge the whole thing into main.
And unlike issues like PRs, this is not really a Git issue. This is definitely a GitHub issue, right? Because I don't think, to this day, I don't think Git has any concept of PRs or anything like that in it, or any kind of grouping or any of that kind of stuff. So this is definitely a procedures company-wide kind of thing. So that's good that actually I probably will use it, to be honest, because it's just nice to get that grouping and that sense of accomplishment where like you get the task list, 4 of 8 tasks are complete and all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
But I'm curious,
you're kind of inherently doing it that way anyways, because you're like, oh, and I need to do them in this order, and they need to be merged in this order, basically. And that's what it's doing. So, I mean, I'll read the documentation. It's like stack pull requests are 2 or more pull requests in the same repo where the first or bottom pull request targets the stack's trunk, usually repository's default trunk, such as main, though it can actually be any branch, such as your release branch. Any each subsequent pull request targets the branch of the pull request below it. So they are stacked, which is in the name.
Oh, so, you're actually branching off of the branch itself. Or, sorry, branch.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So we're going out on a limb with this one.
Correct. The stacked branches form a dependency chain where each branch builds on the one below it. Foundational changes such as shared types and database schema go in the lower branch, and the code that depends on them, such as API routes and UI components, go in the higher branches.
Wow.
Each pull request is a stack, represents a discrete reviewable change of one or more commits. You can review and iterate on each pull request independently, and each one shows only the diff for its layers and the changes between its branch and the branch below it. The key principle, last paragraph here, if code in one layer depends on code in another, the dependency must be in the same branch or a lower one. Create a new branch when you start a different concern that depends on the one that you built so far. For example, when you switch from backend to front end work, from the move from core logic to tests, or when the current branch is already large enough to review. So they have, for example, okay, I have main, I'm going to add my database layer, I'm going to add my auth layer, I'm going to add my APIs, I'm going to add my front end on top of it. And the database depends on main, the auth layer depends on the database, the API depends on the auth layer, and the front end depends on the API, and then they stack them from top to bottom, just like if you're eating them up, basically, and they go pop, 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 pop. But they can all be reviewed individually, right? And this, you could do this manually. Like you were probably doing this manually, where you're like, I am creating a branch off the branch and creating a pull request into said branch, but now this is just doing it for you automatically. And there is agentic skills to help, and CLIs and APIs now built in to GitHub and the CLI and things like that to automatically create these stacked PRs for you.
And it's one of those things where a dedicated UI is going to help, because if you're branching off a branch, you can get lost very quickly. All right.
Totally.
So you can get lost very quickly. But a lot of this is sounding like you need a pretty good procedure in place, or a good manager who's kind of paying attention to this stuff. I'm curious if this will play out, because it seems to me that it requires a little bit of foresight in that you will have a designated first branch point, and then branching from there and there and there. That requires planning. That's a little bit waterfall, dare I say the word. As a Git anarchist, I don't know, man.
Or, Frank, here's what you also could do. You could just do everything in one branch, and then you run the stack skill that says, bro, I got this branch. Break this into stacks, and boom, it's good to go. So they also released first class support for the CLI, for the app, for the mobile app, for all these things, and the GitHub CLI, not the GitHub Copilot CLI, which also has first class support. But there is a skill built in now where you can just say stack this puppy, and then it'll stack it up for you automatically. It will figure out inherently for you, and it'll burn through those sweet AI credits that you gotta use by the end of the month, and then you can stack those periods. And I think honestly, that's probably how I'll use it the most, unless I am doing this pre-planning. Because if I start to like create my PR and I look at my commits and I'm like, bro, I'm like, that's like 40 lines of code because I've like added too many things. Like, maybe I should do XYZ. And I did this recently. So I work with the Oh My Posh team, which is Jan. And I own configurator.ohmyposh.dev.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he just released a WebAssembly version of Oh My Posh, basically a terminal, GUI that you can use. So if you go to configurator, you can see it here in real time. I'll give it to you in the link. So he shipped. So I before had a legacy preview, and I was trying to figure out what it would look like based on all these things. So now he legitimately has hey, this is going to be like one-to-one what it looks like. It's integrated. So I call it Studio Beta because he called it Studio. It's the Oh My Posh Studio. And when you add stuff, so for a good example is you go to like theme library samples and then do all segments, and you see like every single segment. It just like works one-to-one for all intents and purposes. So that was a good example of like, I actually, this was like a huge 40,000 line commit because I asked it to do a bunch of things. I was like, okay, like, replace the preview. And then I was like, but also then change this UI and then change that UI and then change this thing and then just this thing, right? Which all just depended on the main thing, which was like swap this thing, right? Or add this thing. So I could have and I should have, to test this feature properly, been like, and stack this puppy, right? Because I then went off and I said, okay, hey, Copilot reviewer, go review this 40,000 line change. And then I grinded on stuff instead of breaking down individual parts. So that is a pretty decent example of what I probably should have done.
Well, Today I learned there's a thing called Brewfather, which is an IPA batch, and I am triply lost in metaphor. So you're killing me with this Oh My Posh configurator, but that's pretty cool. Sorry, just a side tangent. This is pretty cool. Good job. Good job.
Oh
team.
yeah, the Oh My Posh configurator is like one of my favorite things because I'm a GUI person, and it's like, oh, just edit this JSON file. I was like, no. Like, let me just drag and drop things on these prompt blocks and all this other stuff. So it's very good. So yeah, that's Stack PRs, and there was tons of awesome, fun memes and a bunch of really fun stuff on the internet for pancakes, and it's like in there now. So what I'm hoping is this, Frank, is that when I go into like the Copilot app or I go into VS Code and I say create PR, what it should do immediately is run that skill and be like, should I break this down in, and then ask me, oh, do you want to stack this puppy? And I'll probably be like, yes. Like that's the flow I'm hoping for will just happen.
Yeah, you have me thinking about like the moment I have it create all my issues, because I still like issue-based development. I'm still on that side. I might just have it say, and go create these 6 PRs that are works in progress, and they're all stacked on top of each other. Because just from a UI perspective, I'm with you. It's nice to have it all just kind of grouped together, so you know that these are a piece and they're not going to interfere with a whole nother set of PRs.
Yeah,
I'm really curious to like come back to this feature in a year and be like, Frank, did you use stacks? Like, I'm curious to find out if this is something appropriate for small teams and large teams, or if this is a large team thing. So I'm excited to actually revisit the topic. Also, can I mention that I learned today the GitHub command line tool has extensions? My God, what world do we live in, James? I guess I vaguely knew this with some other things that I've just copy and pasted shell commands and just executed them blindly without knowing what anything's doing. YOLO. So all this stack stuff is in the GitHub command line as an extension. I'm curious if they'll ever put it in the box, because it seems like a pretty fundamental feature for GitHub.
Yes, I agree with you on that. And I recently started using extensions for the GitHub CLI because I started to use agentic workflows, which I think we can do a whole podcast on. I'm using them in very unique, fun ways now that I actually know how to work. And also that I installed so how this actually worked is once I installed the agentic workflow GitHub CLI extension, it gave me an agentic workflow custom agent that automatically showed up in my tools, which meant when I wanted to create an agentic workflow, it knew what to do and it worked beautifully. So I knew that there were extensions, but I never used them. And now I'm just like YOLOing it all the time.
So we have sub issues, which is way to group issues. We have stacked PRs. I can't wait until we have stacked extensions, which I guess are plugins. We've already gotten there. Jeez.
Well, what if I told you that, you can stack your PRs, but what if you could also stack your merges of said PRs into a queue, Frank Krueger?
I'm wondering, what am I still going to get the same squashing sensation? Like I really like squashing things. I think it's a very satisfying. So what would I be squashing? I could queue my squashing. Is that the idea? And so it would squash and merge. What am I queuing? I'm lost in the metaphors. I just want to squash things, James.
let me define the problem. Okay, the problem. One of the main problems to solve here is, let's say you have a very busy project. Normally for you and me, not a big thing. I work on the GitHub Copilot app and the GitHub Copilot CLI often, and at any given time, there are 10 to 15 PRs in a queue that are being merged in. By the time I create a branch off of main, and if I go 5 to 10 minutes later and then make a PR, my branch is out of date already because it moves so fast, right? So
but that's why we have diffs, and we no longer have to worry about merge conflicts anymore because AIs rule the world.
This is why we have diffs, but often in a world where you have large projects, there is a setting which I use on all of my projects because I actually really like it, which is to require branches to be up to date before merging. This is a branch protection. So
fair enough.
So
I don't
love
okay.
So this is important. I'll tell you why, Frank. Because there are no conflicts doesn't mean that you introduce something that possibly broke a test or changed some other functionality. And I've had this actually happen to me in projects. So just because it's green, you want that code to be up to date. But what happens, Frank, when you want to like merge something in? So if I'm sitting here looking at my PR, how do I go from I've updated it, it ran all the tests. So for the GitHub Copilot app, by the time I update and I say, oh, update this, there's nothing there. It will take 5 minutes to run the CI. And by that has finished, something has been merged. So then it's so that is where a merge queue comes in. And what this does is you basically say, hey, listen, I'm going to enable merge queues. And then once you say, merge when ready or add to queue, it will add it to a queue. And what it will do is it'll stack things in a queue. So if you add something to the queue, then I do, yours will be there. And then when mine goes, then it will pull the latest, run the tests, and then boom. So it's a queue. It's just a merge queue.
Yeah. I understand queues. Okay, that does all make sense, except I got to poke a hole because I'm not understanding. You still have the same fundamental problem of just because you're in a queue doesn't mean the person ahead of you in the queue, you're not going to break them because you're still rebased from when you went into the queue.
Well,
or are you rebasing when you after them?
When I'm at the top. So if you go in first, yours is the one that will then say, okay, you're first in the queue, I'm second into the queue. When you go into the queue, you will pull latest remain up. Obviously, if there's conflicts or something, then you have issues. Then it will just bump out of the queue, and then it'll be returned to your PR state. But else, if it's clean, then it will pull it, run your CI, and then merge it in. And then I will go, and then I will now have all the previous changes and your changes, and then go from there. That's the
queue. What, James? You know what I think?
What?
I think this is a good idea.
It is a good idea.
I think large companies should do this. I think that would simplify a lot of fundamental problems big companies probably have.
Yeah, I didn't even know that merge queues existed until I started to work on the CLI and the app, and then they use merge queues, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually really smart.
So is that built into GitHub, or is that more just a procedural thing?
Built into GitHub, github.com. Just add it to queue. So when you go right now, it's squash and merge. It'll say squash and add to queue. That's it.
Heck yeah. So I get to squash and add to queue.
Oh, good. Yeah, baby.
Don't take the squashing away. That's the best part.
Exactly. That's very true. You can always be squashing. So now the one thing I actually don't know what happens in a stack PR is I am curious if at the very end, does it squash all of the PRs, because it's stacking them. And then when it gets to the final one, does it squash? I don't know if you'd want to, though. I guess maybe not.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to not to overuse the word merge. Can you merge all your PRs into the merge queue? But I doubt that seems like a pretty advanced feature. I doubt. That doesn't sound necessary given all of what you've told me so far.
Yeah. It sounds like right now in the merge queue, normal PRs work, and then they're adding support for saying, hey, listen, add this stacked PR to the merge queue, and then it would do it all and then go from there. So that should all work, yeah.
Well, as the lead developer of a 2-person team, I'm really curious. I do like the button. I like the concept here, honestly. I'm not often merging many disparate things all at once. So we'll see if I use that queue, but it doesn't sound like it hurts not to use the queue. I like the fact that it's checking that. I'm not a huge fan of rebasing all the time. I get the problem that everyone's running into of what you said. You might be breaking someone else's commit. But you're destroying your history over and over. You're destroying the review history over and over because comments might not apply exactly. But that seems like an okay thing to give up. Having a clean review history. What's more important, the code or the review history? The code. So fine.
And it's really going to depend on the scope and scale of your project. Like I don't think in my apps I need a merge queue, but I could see that. Again, I can see that I use GitHub Copilot code reviews on almost every single PR. in the cloud remotely. And I can do it locally, but I always find that I really like how it adds comments and I can review the comments, or the AI can do. And I really like this process that I've talked about, which is I plan something, I implement something, I create the PR, I have in the cloud, review it while I work on something else, usually if it's independent, obviously, and go from there. So I do like the idea that I can break my main PR into chunks that are easier for it to review and make more sense to implement. So I really just want it to be automatic, which I think it is semi-automatic, obviously, which is good, because I do think if it was a manual process, it would be not as fun to do. You'd have to think about it more. So I actually think it applies more in an agentic world than it used to. So that's my personal belief, that these stack PRs, well, before were important, I think they're now maybe more important than ever. But I don't know. I'll see how it is once I start to use them a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, just roughly, I'm creating way more PRs than I ever used to now.
Oh, yeah.
I just PR everything, because why not? It's just the easiest way to do a code review and all that. Check out the code that whatever the AI is generating. You said something funny before we started recording that really stuck with me, and I just want to bring it up because I think it's kind of interesting. You said this was the #1 requested feature for a decade now on GitHub, so that's kind of cool.
So.
Finally, finally. Usually an Apple thing, but that's fun. That it must feel so good to the devs over there to be like, hey, that thing everyone's been requesting, we finally did it. So
it's there.
Actually, everyone's in a good mood over on the team.
I think it was a pretty big undertaking, to be honest with you. So,
is that right?
And there was they're going to do a bunch of engineering deep dives, and some of the lead engineers were doing these big tweet threads about how it all kind of came together and stuff like that. So it seemed pretty neat. So
that's fun.
I'm actually going to see if Mona is now collecting PRs. Let's see. Is it in there yet?
I'm excited to see what the #2 requested feature was now.
Yeah.
Big team stuff.
Yeah, big team stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent. Are you going to be talking about that at every user conference now for the next month? I'm curious who's being affected by it.
I think that I think it'll be part of my demo flow, to be honest with you, because I think now I can say, okay, now AI has made this big change and it's actually done a bunch of work. Because actually I was doing this workshop for Copilot just yesterday, and we're going through this workshop, and pretty much I implement back-end changes, front-end changes, database changes, and then do the whole thing.
Basically set up for it. Yeah.
And then I literally do commit, push, create a branch, go. But now I can say, now run the stack PR, and then it'll do the thing, right? And then you can say, okay, now we can run code reviews on all of them. So I think that'll be part of my natural flow of it, especially the agentic workflow for that. For not the agentic workflow, but the agentic part of that workflow, I should say. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Hit a microphone.
Well, now that I'm retiring as Washington's best tour guide, I guess I'll get back into this software thing, this little software business. I'll try to catch back up with you, James.
If you didn't schedule all of your agents to be firing off different days while your family was in town, I don't know what you're doing, man.
You'd be so proud of me. My family was boring me for a few minutes, and I was on my little phone assigning an agent to do some work on an app. So, you taught me well, sir.
I like that.
Wasn't at an airport, but next time I'll try to do it at an airport.
Yeah, I'll tell you this much, because I had a bunch of these flights, and the Starlink internet, man, it on the planes, it's very good. And dude, I've just been crushing stuff. Even yesterday, I did this Oh My Posh refactoring on the plane ride home from Washington to Oregon, and it's a pretty short flight, obviously, but I got on the plane, and you can connect to the Starlink. This is my short story, and then we'll call it a night. But I got onto the plane pretty early on in the process, so I was like, okay, I have 15, 20 minutes. So I open my laptop, I connect to Starlink internet, and then I do a planning session. So I'm like, okay, this is going to take a pretty big, I do a whole plan. I'm like, okay, close the laptop. And then I say, okay, we get off 10,000 feet.
Okay.
Open the laptop. The plan is ready. Reconnect to Starlink. Fire it off. Order a drink. Have a whole conversation. just move my mouse pad just a little bit so the agent keeps running. Get off, we're almost at the end. Open the pull request. Cool. Assign it to Copilot for a code review. Get home. Merge it in. And that was like my flow yesterday. That's how I did it, which was like so absolutely funny that was like my main flow for it. And it worked out great. Yeah, it was really fun. So
yeah, the last step I have to get, I was actually updating an app that uses the Xcode builds and would have gone up to test flight if I'd completed the loop. I didn't fully complete the loop.
Oh, yeah.
So my next challenge is to, make a request and get an update to my app, like as I'm ignoring my family.
There you go. Well, Frank, that's going to do it for this week's Merge Conflict. I'm interested if anyone has been using Stack PRs or have gotten used to it or like are interested in it, or like, wow, that'd be like awesome. Like I would totally use this feature, or you're using queues. Let us know. Go to our YouTube, comment on this video. We'd appreciate it. We're doing pretty good, I think, on the YouTube so far on our puppy there. Obviously, we have the main one. Let's look at what we're at today. Today on the Merge. 924 subscribers are on our way to 1,000. Like by the end of the year. Yes. And our monetization train, we are 2/3 the way there. So we are at 2,100 qualified hours in the last year. Don't tell people that.
They don't want ads, James.
But well, here's the thing.
For us, it's good.
YouTube's going to play those ads anyways. The difference is we will not get paid for it until...
Yeah, you're all getting the ads anyway. Right. Fair enough.
You're all getting the ads anyways, but we get $0 for it until, head on over. And actually, I'm going to do some analytics. It does look like our .NET MAUI episode was one of the most popular episodes in a long, long time. The one that we did 2 weeks ago. So that's pretty good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh. Also, update on the iMac stuff. I sent you a website. Did you get that?
Oh, I did. The website was not working great on a telephone, but it was, check me if I'm wrong, it was a way to search for real IMAX theaters in the grand United States or worldwide. What was it?
In the United States. I forget. Andrew Baker vibe coded this out, and I just happened to see it. Baker. I happened to see it on the internet, on the Twitters, and boom. So it's actually that you do seed alerts and a bunch of other stuff. So what's interesting, there is only, and we had a whole discussion at dinner, by the way, my team dinner on Thursday. There's like only 5 of us, but so it's partial team dinner instead of 20, and not everyone was in town. But we talked about this, and then I showed them this website, and they're so happy. But there's only 24 theaters in America.
It's sad, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's sad.
And he lists them all here. So there's a bunch in California. There's one in Vegas. There's
Rochester,
Arizona,
New York. Go Rochester.
Go Rochester. So San Antonio, some Texas, some Illinois, some Michigan, Indianapolis. It's called iMaxing, IMAXXING.io, iMaxing. Hilarious. I used to live directly next to the one in Arizona, and I've been to that IMAX, and I think I saw Avatar in 3D IMAX there. I'm pretty sure.
I'm so sad because I was just in Sacramento, California. I was just in San Francisco, and I was just in Las Vegas, and those cities all have it. Don't let your city convert to laser. Lasers are dumb. Film, people. Stick with the film.
All right. That's going to do it for this week's Merge Conflict. So until next time, I'm James Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Krueger. Thanks for watching and listening.
Peace.